The call came just after sunrise, while the last traces of the night storm still clung to the mountains. Mark had barely stepped into the station when the dispatcher waved him over with urgency. A hiker passing through the old logging road had spotted a massive bear standing motionless near a collapsed cabin, refusing to leave, refusing to retreat, just guarding the rubble like it belonged to him. Mark grabbed his jacket and met Sarah by the truck. She was already loading her veterinary kit, her brows tight with concern. "A bear staying that close to humans after a landslide?" she said. "That's not normal behavior." "Exactly why we're going," Mark replied. The drive into the foothills was slow. Fallen branches littered the road, and fog clung to the treetops like smoke. When they finally reached the clearing, the scene was eerily quiet. The cabin, a small hunting lodge long abandoned, had partially collapsed, its roof caved in, one wall torn open by the slide. And in front of it stood the bear. He was huge, easily several hundred kilos, with fur clumped from rain and dirt. His sides rose and fell quickly, as if he'd been pacing for hours. When he noticed the truck, he didn't charge or flee. He simply let out a low, warning rumble. Sarah stayed behind Mark as they stepped out. "He's stressed," she whispered, "but not aggressive. See how he keeps glancing at the foundation?" Mark watched the bear carefully. The animal wasn't guarding food. There was none. He wasn't protecting territory. This wasn't his den site. But every time Mark shifted even a step closer to the shattered entrance, the bear tensed, muscles bunching under soaked fur. "What are you hiding, big guy?" Mark murmured. They spread out slowly, staying within each other's line of sight. The bear tracked every movement, his breath puffing in thick, shaky bursts. Sarah crouched and studied the ground. "He's exhausted," she said. "Look, he's been circling this spot all night." His prints overlap. Mark moved sideways along the debris, careful not to provoke. The bear growled, deep and raw, but didn't advance. That was when Sarah heard it first. A faint sound, thin, trembling, almost swallowed by the wind. She froze. "Mark, did you hear that?" He stopped breathing just to listen. There it was again, weak, muffled, coming from beneath the collapsed floorboards. A whimper. Sarah's eyes widened. "That's not the bear. That's smaller." The bear suddenly huffed and took one heavy step forward, placing himself between them and the broken foundation. He lowered his head but didn't lunge, just held his ground, panting hard. Mark felt the realization hit them both at once. "That's a cub under there," Sarah whispered. The bear's behavior made sense now. The pacing, the refusal to leave, the guarding of the exact spot where the sound came from. Mark raised a hand slowly, signaling Sarah to stay behind him. "We've got a mother protecting her baby," he said, "and we're standing between them." The whimper came again, softer this time, like the little creature was fading. Sarah clutched her medical bag, her voice barely audible. "If it's trapped, we don't have much time." The bear rumbled again, eyes locked on them, soaked fur trembling with fear and exhaustion. Mark swallowed hard. "All right," he said quietly. "We're going to have to earn her trust." The bear didn't back down, not even an inch. Every time Mark shifted toward the collapsed foundation, she stepped forward, blocking the exact angle he needed to approach. Her breaths came out fast and harsh, steam rising from her muzzle in the cold morning air. She wasn't just defensive. She was terrified. Sarah kept her eyes on the rubble where the faint whimper had come from. The sound wasn't constant. It faded, then returned again, weaker each time. "If the cub is trapped under there," she said quietly, "it's hypothermic. Maybe injured. We don't have long." Mark nodded, glancing from the bear to the debris. "And there's no way she'll let us near it like this." The first backup team arrived, 2 rangers with noise deterrents, thermal scanners, and a collapsible barrier. They watched the bear carefully, keeping their distance. One of them, Evan, spoke under his breath. "She hasn't eaten in days. That cabin's been abandoned for years. She didn't come here for food." "No," Sarah said. "She came because her cub ended up here." The bear huffed again, pacing in a tight semicircle. Her paw dragged slightly, leaving dark streaks in the wet soil. She was exhausted, physically and mentally, but still she held her ground. Mark crouched beside a fallen log, pulling Sarah with him. "All right, let's think this through. We need her far enough away from the opening for at least a minute. No harm, no aggression, just distance." Sarah scanned the area. "What if we distract her with scent? Something strong, berries, honey, anything sweet." Evan shook his head. Bears in stress mode ignore food, especially mothers. Then movement, Mark said. Noise from the opposite side? Evan hesitated. It could push her toward you instead of away. The bear suddenly barked, a deep, guttural warning, and swiped at the dirt. Sarah froze. She's reacting to the cub again. The sound's bothering her. Mark pressed his lips together. Then we need a distraction that feels like another threat, but not one that triggers a full charge. They unfolded the portable barrier, lightweight aluminum panels that created a visual obstruction. Two rangers approached slowly from the left, keeping the panels between them and the bear. She immediately turned toward the movement, growling loudly. Her attention shifted. For the first time, she wasn't looking at the rubble. Now, Mark whispered. He and Sarah moved fast but low, stepping around broken planks and bricks. The bear noticed at the last second. Her growl rose into a frantic roar. She didn't move toward them, but her panic was clear, her pacing turning erratic. Easy, Sarah whispered, holding her hands out. Not toward the bear, but toward the rubble. We're helping your baby. Just let us see. They reached the collapsed foundation. A section of flooring had caved inward, exposing the dark pocket beneath the old cabin. The smell of damp wood and cold earth hit them immediately. Then they heard it again. A tiny, strained cry. Sarah dropped to her knees. He's right under this board, she said. We need leverage. Mark signaled Evan. Together they wedged a pry bar under the broken plank. The bear lunged forward with a roar, slamming her paws onto the dirt. The rangers raised the barrier, shouting loudly to pull her attention back. Hold her. Just 10 more seconds. Mark yelled. The plank lifted. Sarah reached inside, hands trembling. Her fingers brushed soaked fur, small, icy cold. The cub was curled tight, shivering weakly. I've got him, she said, voice breaking with relief. As she pulled the tiny body out, the bear saw. She reared back, roaring so loudly the forest echoed. Panic surged through the team. Evan shouted. She's going to break the line. She's coming through. Mark stepped in front of Sarah instinctively, but she pushed past him, clutching the freezing cub to her chest. No weapons, she yelled. Don't move. And before anyone could stop her, Sarah stepped into the open, directly toward the terrified mother bear, holding her baby in her arms. Sarah froze the moment she stepped into the clearing, the cub clutched tightly against her chest. The tiny creature let out a weak, trembling cry, barely audible over the low thunder still rolling somewhere in the mountains. The mother bear stood tall, massive, shaking with exhaustion and fear. Her claws dug into the earth. Her growl vibrated in Sarah's ribs. Mark whispered from behind, Sarah, stop. She's too close. But Sarah didn't move. If we don't show her the cub, she'll charge, she whispered back. Everyone stay still. Slowly, she lowered herself into a crouch. The cub whimpered again, and that sound cut through the bear's panic like nothing else. The mother's ears flicked forward. Her growl softened into a deep, uneven rumble. Sarah gently loosened her grip so the cub's head peeked out from her jacket. It's okay, Mama, she murmured. He's cold, but he's alive. We're trying to help him. The bear huffed, nostrils flaring, taking in the scent of her baby. She swayed on her paws, torn between fear of the humans and desperation to reach the cub. Sarah slowly extended the corner of the blanket she carried, letting the bear see she wasn't hiding anything threatening. For several long seconds, no one breathed. The rangers held their ground, hands hovering near tranquilizer guns, but not raising them. The bear took one shaky step forward. Sarah didn't retreat. She kept her posture low, eyes down, one hand gripping the warm bottle tucked under the blanket. When the bear growled again, Sarah whispered, I know you're scared. The bear stopped just a few meters away, close enough that Sarah could see the mud caked around her paws, the cuts along her shoulder, the frantic rise and fall of her chest. She was barely standing. Sarah slowly lifted the warm bottle so the mother could smell it. The bear leaned closer, sniffing the air, then uttered a sound that was almost a whine, raw exhaustion breaking through instinct. Mark whispered, She's letting you through. Sarah edged sideways, creating a path back toward the foundation. The bear followed every inch of her movement, but didn't block her this time. Instead, she lowered her head toward the opening in the collapsed boards. You want him there, Sarah murmured. Okay, we can do that. She knelt at the edge of the rubble and carefully laid the cub onto a dry patch of ground beside the foundation. He let out another faint whimper as she wrapped him tightly in the blanket and tucked the warm bottle beneath it. The mother bear sniffed him, nudging the tiny bundle with her nose. A deep, shaky breath escaped her, a sound of recognition and relief. Sarah stepped back slowly, hands raised. He needs heat and fluids. If we leave him like this, he might not make it. Mark joined her at her shoulder. We can take him to the truck, treat him, and bring him back, he whispered. But she may not survive another separation. She's hanging on by instinct alone. Sarah watched the bear carefully. There's another option. We treat them both here. No sedation, no transport. But it's risky. Before Mark could respond, the bear suddenly swayed. Her front legs buckled, and she collapsed beside the rubble with a heavy thud. The cub squeaked in alarm. Sarah rushed forward a half step, then stopped, waiting to see if the bear would react. She didn't. Her sides rose and fell rapidly, breath shallow and uneven. "Oh no," Sarah whispered. "She's crashing. She hasn't slept, eaten, or rested since the slide." Mark looked at the injured mother and the fading cub. "We're running out of time for both of them." Sarah grabbed her medical bag. "Then we don't choose one or the other," she said. "We save them both. Right here." The mother bear didn't respond when Sarah called to her. She lay on her side, chest heaving in shallow, uneven bursts. Mud clung to her fur, mixing with dried blood from cuts she must have gotten while digging through the rubble. The cub squeaked faintly beneath the blanket, reaching toward her with tiny, trembling paws. Sarah pressed 2 fingers to the mother's flank. "She's burning through the last of her strength," she said. "If we don't stabilize her now, she won't survive the next hour." Mark looked toward the Rangers. "Prepare a light dose of tranquilizer. Just enough to keep her calm for transport. No more." Evan hesitated. "If she wakes in the truck, we'll handle it," Mark said firmly. "Right now she needs help more than space." Sarah nodded. "Do it." They worked fast. The dart hissed quietly as it entered the bear's shoulder. She flinched, her eyes fluttering open for a moment, then closing again as her breathing slowed into something steadier. Sarah waited until she was sure the sedation had settled before stepping toward the cub. "He's colder than before," she murmured as she lifted him. The tiny body felt weightless, frighteningly frail. She tucked the warm bottle deeper beneath the blanket and held him to her chest. "We're losing time." With careful coordination, the team slid a reinforced stretcher under the unconscious mother bear. 4 people lifted her in slow, synchronized movements and carried her to the transport truck. Sarah climbed into the back immediately, settling beside both animals as the doors shut behind her. The drive down the mountain was brutal. The roads were slick with mud from the storm, and every bump made Sarah tighten her grip on the cub. She checked the mother's breathing constantly, adjusting the portable oxygen line and warming her paws with heat packs. "She's dehydrated," Sarah said to Mark, who sat across from her, bracing himself with one hand against the truck wall. "Severely. And the cub's in hypothermic shock." "We'll get them through it," Mark said. "Just keep talking to them." By the time they reached the wildlife center, the cub was barely moving. His breaths were thin, fluttering things. Sarah rushed him inside while the team transferred the mother to the large exam room. The center's generator hummed as heaters roared to life. Hours blurred into each other. Sarah administered fluids, warmed the cub with heated blankets, massaged his limbs to stimulate circulation, and monitored his temperature every few minutes. Mark worked alongside her, cleaning the mother bear's wounds and checking for internal injuries. "You should rest," he said at one point. Sarah didn't look up. Not until they're both stable. He didn't argue. Neither of them slept. The cub responded first. Near dawn, after nearly 12 hours of treatment, he twitched, just a small movement, but enough to make Sarah gasp. His breathing deepened. His paws curled. His eyes opened halfway. "He's coming back," she whispered, smiling through sheer exhaustion. Mark exhaled in relief. One down. But the mother still lay motionless, hooked to fluids, chest rising only slightly. Sarah sat beside her, one hand resting gently on the bear's shoulder. "Come on, Mama," she murmured. "Your baby needs you." 3 hours passed. Then 4. Sarah's head began to droop from fatigue, until a soft sound jolted her awake. A low, quiet rumble. She sat up instantly. The mother bear's eyes were open, not wide or panicked, just open, calm, focused. She blinked slowly, her gaze settling directly on Sarah. There was no aggression in it, no fear, Only recognition. Sarah whispered, "You made it." The bear let out a slow exhale, her eyes softening as she took in the tiny cub sleeping beside her. Mark stepped into the doorway, frozen. "She's awake." Sarah nodded, still barely breathing. "And she's peaceful." 3 weeks passed, and the mountains slowly shed the last traces of the storm. Morning light spread across the wildlife reserve as Mark and Sarah walked the gravel path toward the rehabilitation enclosure. Frost clung to the grass, melting under the sun's first warmth. The air felt cleaner than it had in days. "Seems quiet today," Mark said, hands in his pockets. Sarah smiled softly. "Quiet is good. Quiet means healing." When they reached the enclosure, the sight waiting for them made Sarah stop mid-step. The mother bear stood tall near the tree lean, her fur thick and glossy again. No more trembling, no more labored breaths. She was steady now, muscles filled out, movements deliberate and strong. Beside her, the cub bounced awkwardly over a fallen log, tripping on his oversized paws and rolling into the leaves with a confused squeak. Sarah laughed under her breath. "He's finally acting like a normal cub." Mark rested an arm on the fence. Hard to believe 3 weeks ago he was barely breathing. They watched as the cub clambered back onto his feet and scampered toward his mother. She nuzzled him gently, then looked up toward the humans at the fence. Her posture didn't tense. She only observed, calm and unthreatened. The ranger on duty approached. "She's passed every health check," he said. "No infection, hydration stable, appetite strong. We're ready for release if you are." Sarah felt her heart thud once. Heavy, bittersweet. Today, the ranger confirmed. They opened the gate into the transitional corridor, leading from the enclosure into the wide stretch of forest beyond. Mark pulled the lever, and the metal latch clicked open with a hollow echo. The mother bear didn't rush. She nudged the cub closer to her side, taking a moment to smell the wind drifting through the opening. Pine, earth, cold air. The scent of home. "Go on, girl," Sarah whispered. "It's yours again." The cub was the first to step forward, stumbling into the fresh, snow-dusted grass. He turned back to his mother as if urging her to follow. She moved behind him, slow but confident. Then she stopped. She turned her head towards Sarah and Mark. Just a glance at first, then a full, steady gaze that held for several long seconds. Calm, deep, almost thoughtful. Not fear, not aggression. Something quieter. Something that made Sarah swallow hard. "She remembers," Sarah said under her breath. Mark nodded. "Hard to forget someone who fought this hard for you." The bear blinked, exhaled a long, slow breath, and then stepped into the forest. Her cub bounced after her, tripping over another branch and squeaking indignantly before hurrying to catch up. Branches closed behind them as they disappeared between the trees. For a moment, the forest was completely still. No roaring, no storms, just the quiet sound of wind moving through the pines. Sarah let out a shaky breath, leaning her hands on the fence. "We did it," she whispered. Mark smiled faintly. "We didn't save them. We just gave them a chance." Later that afternoon, a ranger drone flew over the mountains, filming the report they would send to the regional center. Its camera drifted toward the old cabin site, now silent, covered in frost and morning light. The collapsed boards remained, but the chaos of that day felt distant, softened by time. Nothing moved there now. No frightened mother. No trapped cub. Just the circle of forest reclaiming what had always belonged to it. The drone hovered for a moment, the wind rustling through broken beams. Then it rose higher, following the trail that led back into the wild places where the bears now lived free. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss new stories. And now just click the playlist or the next video on your screen.